big hello to you, it's so great to see you and I hope I'll find you well. Welcome back up here to Weir Yard. I'm Jenny Kirk and today we're taking another look at that Railroad Plus Class 37 that featured in the last video. And what I want to do is see just how easy it is to take on a few modelling projects to really improve this budget locomotive. So in today's video I'm going to be looking at adding working cab lights, some end marker lights. I'm going to be applying the etched nameplates that come with it, and then I'm going to be passing it off to Iron Horse Railways over on his channel, where he'll be doing a full weathering on this, and you can catch the full video of that over on the Iron Horse Railways YouTube channel, and we'll be presenting some edited highlights towards the end of this video. And let's see just what we can do as a few modelling projects to really up the game of this £87.29 Class 37 model. And certainly for a lot of people on a tight budget, or maybe who just want to take on a nice interesting modelling project, this really does offer some interesting possibilities. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
But I'm always really excited by these little projects, and certainly adding lighting to a DCC locomotive is a really easy way of upping the ante on what it can offer you. Some of the really expensive locomotives on the market now are offering anywhere up to 10 different lighting functions, and as standard the Railroad Plus models don't feature any lighting at all. But it's really easy to add them in, and if you've already put in the DCC decoder, then even a basic 8-pin decoder is going to give you anywhere up to 4 auxiliary outputs that you can use for independently switched lighting. And weathering too is a great way of bringing out the best in body side detail, toning down what can sometimes seem a little bit too toy-like liveries, and just really bringing a locomotive alive. Don't forget as well that if you like this video, do tickle that like button and share this video to social media as well, and subscribe to the channel to be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. You can also head on over to Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see, and we've got a number of different tiers of rewards. Or alternatively, you could also become a channel member and reap the benefit in the Monday Club live chat. And a big thank you to everybody who already does that for really making this channel possible. But onwards with the video, and let's take a look at what we can achieve with the Railroad Plus Hornby Class 37. As you remember, in Wednesday's video we did the full review of this Railroad Plus model, and I was really excited by the possibilities for projects to improve it. So today what I'm going to look at doing is adding, in the main principally, I want to look at doing some kind of basic cab interiors, and that in turn will let us add cab lights and also look at directional lights as well. And that's something that we should be able to do quite easily, because inside here Hornby have very thoughtfully provided some extra solder points around the 8-pin decoder socket, which does mean that it should be fairly straightforward for us to be able to solder in some extra lighting functions and make use of the 4 functions, I believe, that we've got available from the DCC decoder that I've used, and that will give us front and rear lighting, and then also front and rear cab lights. So I've got the body off, and as you remember from last time, there's actually plenty of space inside here, and looking inside we've got the DCC fit making use of the huge amount of space that's actually down there in the fuel tanks. Now you could fill this with some ballast weight if you wanted, just to increase the adhesion, but actually I think this locomotive runs pretty well as it is. It performed admirably with the load of mineral wagons, and there was no sign of stuttering, so it doesn't need a stay alive, and I don't think it needs extra ballast. Now you could go for a sound installation. This is set up for a sound installation, and just to prove that, there's the circular TTS style speaker, which is perfect for this. So if you can get yourself a class 37 TTS sound decoder, that would be a great way to go. Now, as you can see here, we've got some solder tabs just around the 8-pin socket. Only 4 of these are currently used, the 2 for the track and 2 for the motor. But I'm going to use the other 4 to actually solder in some lighting. Now for this, what I'm actually going to use is DCC Concepts sell the Alpha Mimic lights. These really quite easy to use stick-on LEDs, and these are perfect for this job. They're actually sold for putting into buildings, but you can run these directly off the auxiliary outputs of a full power on a decoder. So generally speaking, all decoders, the first 4 auxiliary outputs are full power and will drive these LEDs with no other modification required. I've also got a few bits and pieces which I got off eBay, and got a job lot of just bits that have come out of other locomotives, and these should allow some kind of building up for cab interiors. They actually are cab interiors, but just not for a class 37. And these in turn do break down. So we've got a control desk, and we can fit this at both ends of the model quite easily, and this will serve a double function in that it will allow us to have some kind of cab interior visible, but also screen out the light which we're going to direct to these front domino lights. So we get a twofer out of that. Now we could theoretically add engine room lights, but we don't have the functions from this 8-pin decoder, and I think that that might be a step too far. But certainly if you want to take that on, then that is another route you could go down. So I've taken the decoder out just for safety, make sure that we don't cause any issues, maybe catch it with a soldering iron. And with that removed, it's very clear we can see pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I've got a diagram we can put up on screen showing what each of these should actually do, and this will correspond with the decoder. So we've got the orange and black at the top there, they go to the track, and then down at the bottom we've got the black and grey, they go to the motor, but then we've got the blue there on pin 7, we've got white there on pin 6, and that would normally go to one of the directional lights, to the front light, and then on the other side green here. The NMRA standard actually shows this is unused, but this is now commonly the next auxiliary function. So that would be what you would find on your F1 key and the green wire. And then here we've got the yellow wire, which would be the rear-facing lights. So as long as we make sure that we use the blue on pin 7 as the common return, we can quite easily wire in some of these DCC Concepts lights, and these in turn do make it a lot easier for putting lights into locomotives because they're sticky backed. So I'm just going to take one of these out, and what we can do with this is we can place this into the locomotive, say up in the cab roof, and that then will give us our cab lighting. One of these we can put on the green wire, and the other one we can put onto the pink wire, which is just on a free wire going off to the plug, which gives us effectively a 9th wire. So I've got that in there. They are quite long wires, so I'm just tucking them in for simplicity. I'm going to put our other cab light in, and at the moment these, well, they'll give us the glow of the light out through the cab windows, but by the same token they're not going to show very much going on in there. So what I want to do is use some of these cab interiors that I've got in a bunch of bits and pieces from eBay, and I'm going to start building up a cab interior. Let's just take the cab interior with the desk removed, and see at this end we're going to have to be quite careful because we've got the motor in the way, so that is going to compromise us a little bit, but we can look to put in the cab interior at this end. So I'm going to have to nibble away at this plastic. It's something that I don't mind doing on something that we just got from somebody's scrap box, and it's just simply a case of nibbling a little bit of that plastic out of the way, and that should hopefully allow this piece to slip down and into place in that cab. It's not going to foul any of the base area here, so I'm going to use super glue to fit that in, and then I can also use super glue to put in the cab control desk, which I'm just going to nibble a little bit off this end, just because the radius inside this 37 is just a little bit steeper on the sides than the original locomotive that this desk was actually designed for. I think this is going to work out quite nicely. We've already got the light in. Always important to put that in first, because you're not going to be able to get that in after we've got the desk in place. And I'm going to start with the actual cab, and it's just simply a case of running some super glue around the edges very carefully. Try not to stick myself, and you also don't want to get any of this onto your fingers, simply because it will run the risk of getting all over the model. So that's in there, setting quite quickly. I'm going to get tweezers just to help us move these bits around. So it's quite clear we can take the same approach on this very simplistic desk that we've got here, and you could always make these parts out of plastic card, or there are a number of different manufacturers of 3D printed parts that you could also make use of, and all of those would go together to very quickly give you the detail that we're after. Just, it doesn't have to be a complex detail. So we've got those in, and I am thinking that just to stop any kind of light bleed, I've got more bits here. I'm just building up with bits to try and create this cab. A little bit of glue on the underside, and again, this is going to be something that I can just bridge that gap with. And you can also put a driver figure in if you wanted. I don't actually have a driver figure spare, but that's gone in nicely. And then I'm going to get another one of these lights. That's why it's great, you get these bulk packs. We can trim these wires afterwards. We don't need to actually keep them this long. But I'm actually going to, very carefully, just underneath here, I'm going to just bend those wires going to stick that to the back of that control panel so that the light is directed towards those two openings. And then again, just for neatness, I'm going to feed this underneath some of the other detailed parts. So already you can see that's working cab lights, cab interior at the end that we've got plenty of space, and the end lights for that end. Now at this end, I'm just going to break apart one of these. They're just glued in place. So again, I'm just going to nibble off a little bit on the corners, just because the radius on this 37 is different to the locomotive that this was designed for. And you can see there, that should work okay. So I'm going to, again, super glue, tweezer this just to make sure that everything is well. Now that looks fine. Now we're not going to be able to put in the rest of the cab interior because of the bulk of the motor, so I'm going to leave the rest of that out. We're going to need one more light, so again, take another light from this set. You do get, I think it's 24 of these lights, so they do go a long way. And again, peel off the back, and I'm just going to very carefully put that into place. And again, it's going to be a case of running these wires neatly back through here, mostly so these don't get caught on things like the motor. We just don't want it to get caught. So there we have all of those in place. We can of course trim these down. We're going to need all of the returns going to that one pin. Now that can get quite messy on here, so I'm just going to go and find a screw terminal just to make things a little bit on the easier side. I've got my no clean flux and my solder, and what I'm going to do, just for ease of use, I'm going to add a short length of blue wire to that terminal, and that will then go into the terminal block where all of the other common returns can then actually just all screw in. It just makes things a little bit easier. And of course, if you're trying to actually solder a huge number of different wires into one small spot, you'll find that one will unsolder as you solder in the next one. So I'm just going to make sure that my cables are not tangled. A little bit of solder on that, and I'm going to solder in this wire. And there we go, that's in place. This then should allow for ease of use. I can screw this in here, just going to squeeze this in here out of the way. So that's fine. Right, let's make sure that we've got this the right way round, and I'm going to solder in the directional light. Let's just double check we've got the right cable. So this, I'm going to call this our front directional cable. It actually doesn't matter because these are an either or thing. So I'm just going to put a little bit of no clean flux on there. Just move these apart. You can put the wire through the hole. Just be very careful that you don't touch the body with the soldering iron. And that's very easily gone into place there. And the black end to go back into there. I'm actually just going to bundle up the wire in the middle, I think, rather than at this stage struggling with trimming these to length, re-tinning them, and etc. So next up, we've got the light from the other end. We're going to double check, yes, that is the one. And I'm just going to get a little bit more solder on there. I'm going to push this through the hole, and that should give us a good bond. Onto cab lights now, and it doesn't really matter which way round we do this. I'm going to just solder one of these to the green wire, and then we will actually look to, when we add the decoder in, make sure that we've got a connection for the final one into the pink wire. Poke the red one in, and we get a good strong bond. This is a little bit too unwieldy. I've got another solution. Rather than using that, let's save that for another day. I can use some of this heat shrink. Let's use the blue heat shrink. Let's just trim a length of that we need. Tin the end of this blue wire. Solder. That's tinned. Now don't forget this stage, putting your heat shrink on. Very easy to forget this. Once you've soldered the wires together, then it's a quite difficult process to get the heat shrink on. So now what I'm going to do is I will tin all of these. So I've got that one, got that one, got that one, and we will also need to add this one. So I'm just going to tin that too. So tinned, 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 tinned. So we're going to start adding these in. Okay, there's one. And see, this is the problem when you try and solder multiple things to the same wire. It is very tricky. There's another one. We've got that one on. Right, once we've got all those in and we're happy, it will seem alright, then we will use the heat shrink to protect all of those connections. Just move that over, and then I just use the heat from the soldering iron to just shrink that down. It's okay, and that's in nice. And then all that's left to do is to get the pink, might be purple, pink, purple, lilac wire from the decoder, and this is the only one that we're going to need to do. And actually this decoder's on a harness, so it makes sense to take that off. And let's just make sure that we can plug this in. I'm going to use a little bit of that blue heat shrink again because I've got it out of the packet. So you always got to get in the habit of adding the heat shrink first, otherwise you end up not being able to add it at all, which is not what you want. So I'm going to tin this wire. Actually I'll tin this one whilst I'm at it. Tinned and tinned, and then it's simply a case of soldering these two together. Let's just make sure that we're not going to get all tangled up here. So the trick is just put them together. That's a decent bond. Now move the heat shrink up. We're just going to protect that. And there we go. We can then refit the decoder. Get that tucked away down into here. And then We just need to tuck away all of these wires and get the body back on. Okay, so in answer to all those people who've been shouting at the screen whilst I've been doing this, I got the wires the wrong way round, so I've just fixed that with all the red wires from the positive side of the LEDs going to the blue wire on pin 7, and it's the black wires that go directly to the auxiliary connections for the lighting. It's not a big deal, I've just swapped that over, but just for all those who spotted, well done, I didn't, but it's all fixed now. So I'm going to get this all put back together and tested. I've got it on the track, and let's just see how well that new lighting works. So I'm going to start off with the marker lights at the end, and you can see that they come on and shine through the existing lenses that are already there in the body shell. Next up, I've got those cab lights, and I decided after a little bit of deliberation to rewire them together so that they both come on at once, and this was just down to a glitch with my particular decoder that I used, but it's something that you can always wire them separately on your model. You can see they come on and are pretty effective, and it just goes to show that there's an easy upgrade route for adding lighting even into these basic Railroad Plus models. The cab interior is also visible with the rear bulkhead and also the control panel at the front. One area for improvement might be adding a driver figure, and in addition moving the seats that were moulded as part of the bulkhead at the back further forward to be more prototypically accurate. But overall, that's a pretty good install for some bits that I got for pennies off eBay. The final area of easy improvement is to add those etched nameplates that come with the model. Now, to get them off the fret, you need to have them on a fairly firm surface. Otherwise, the big risk is that they will distort as you cut them out. I'm using a sharp scalpel here and just very quickly and gently separating them from the etch. Now take your time because you don't want to damage things. What I'm now going to use is some Speed Bond, which is quick drying PVA type glue, and you don't want to use a lot. In fact, less is best when you use glues such as this for putting the plates on. You really don't want to cover the entire back. Simply a tiny little bit will do the job. In fact, I'm going to apply this carefully just to the blade of the scalpel, and you can see there that is more than enough to be able to do this. I'm just going to put tiny amount on the back, and the beauty of this kind of glue is that it gives you time to reposition, but also if you get any on the side of the model, then you can also quite easily clean that off. So there you can see as it's gone down, it's not quite in the right place. Use the printed nameplates as the guide, and there you have it. Etched nameplate applied, and just let that glue dry. And then move on to the other side. Again, using a tiny amount of that glue on the back of the nameplate. Smear it a little bit with my fingers. Any excess that's on your fingers, just wipe that off before you get to work on the model. Hold the nameplate by the edges. Make sure it hasn't picked up any bits and pieces. And then again, I'm just going to apply that down over the top of the printed nameplates. There we have it. A set of etched nameplates quickly and easily applied to the model. And there you have some simple ideas for really improving your Railroad Plus model. I'm going to hand this off now to another YouTuber, Iron Horse Railways, who's going to do a full weathering video on his channel, and we're going to present you the edited highlights here.
We're going to do a really nice, simple weathering on this Class 37 that Johnny Kirk has been going through the upgrading process for. Nothing complicated going on here, no fancy camera work or complicated airbrush techniques or anything like that. We're just using a few basic simple materials. And all I've done before starting this, I took some Humbrol mask oil and just gently painted over the windows so that any powders and things don't get all over the windows. So your makeup brush there, two of them, one big brush for blending and small brush for application. So you don't need much of this stuff. Humbrol black. Quite often you see a lot of dirt and grime built up around here, around the grills. So you just take a little tiny bit of the black weathering powder from Humbrol, dab it into the lid, and just work it into the brush there, and then just stipple it on like this. Now I've not pre-treated the surface of this logo. The finish just so happens to be right enough that we don't need to actually do anything to it to make the powder stick too readily. Just gently brush down what we can, and we're going to get a cotton bud, and I'm literally just going to dab a clean bit of it on my tongue like that. And I'm using that to clean away most of it, and that's going to give me really fine streak lines. We can put a bit more on the door, around the door frame instead. Same technique, just dabbing a little bit here, just a tiny bit on this little cab bit at the front, not too much. Same again. Wipe away. Be really careful over the decals. And we're going to get a bit at the front there, on this front grille. These do get mucky, but not as bad as the rest. Leaving those streaks from the panels. And again, anywhere we want this streaking to occur. So there's a little bit of detail here. Get a little bit in there. A bit on there. This door frame. These handles. And that window frame there. Get a bit under there. Work it in. Maybe take your big brush. Just circular blend it, and you can see how the powder blends out. You don't need a lot of this to give it that really work-worn, dirty diesel effect. Working down, and you can see that effect coming through. It's just a nice straight downward motion. Again, we just wetted that cotton bud with a little bit of little dung juice. This is why I say to people, you don't need a lot of powder. Just what's on the brush will do. Get it on there, especially when you're working with a white background. Then down on the cab. On there as well. Simple as that. Easy enough. We've got a nice work-worn body there. Again, roof. We're going to use smoke around the exhaust ports. A little bit of the dark earth, just on certain areas, just a bit on there. Just a little bit of, and I think maybe actually just a little bit of black. Just a dab of the black over the exhaust there. Just to darken it back up again. Big blending brush, circular motions. Really good. Right, I'm going to finish the other side of this and then go outside, lacquer it with the Humbrol acrylic matte finish varnish, and then we're done. We're good to go.
Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's video, and a big thank you to Iron Horse Railways for doing that weathering application on the model. And it's really great to see some of his simple techniques that came together that don't even need anything like an airbrush to really bring this model alive. And you can catch the full version of that video over on the Iron Horse Railways YouTube channel, and we've got a link for him down below. We've also got a link down below for picking up your own version of this bargain class 37 model if you want to take it on maybe as a project model, or maybe just want a cheap 37 to trundle around your layout. It's entirely up to you, and I'd love to hear from you in the comment section down below. What projects have you been taking on, and what hints and tips do you have for sharing with other modelers about simple ways of really improving some of the more basic models? It's a great way to share your skills with your fellow modelers. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also check us out over on Patreon or become a channel member. We've also got the last few Monday Club wagons available, link down in the description. Buy with confidence through that, and you can also check out our full merch store. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling projects. Take care. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com, and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.